Yeah, I'm just kind of interested in how one would identify that, if you don't have a niche yet,
Yeah.
just to kind of hone in, if you're looking at passions, interests, hobbies, stuff like that, or if it's something, internal within the client roster kind of that you're already working with, just trying to identify how that would shape out, and what to look for, I guess, when you're trying to establish that.
The way I like to think of a niche is I like to think of it as a problem that I'm interested in solving. The shortcut to finding a problem I'm interested in solving and then finding a group of people who have that problem. And when I use the word problem, I don't use it in a negative sense. I use it in like a math problem sense. It's just an equation that needs to be solved. And since I'm going to be the one solving it, and I think I'm going to be doing it for a long time, I want to find a problem I'm interested in solving. I love starting with niches in terms of the problem we solve. And then I think you sort of move up and you say, okay, well, where do I find a group of people that have that problem? Now, the shortcut to that, there are other ways to do it, but we don't have time to talk about it here, but there are other ways to do it. But the shortcut, and I think the best way, is to think occupation. That seems to be the best way, is just to think occupation. Because you can do hobby niches, and Ron Carson famously built a business around Nebraska football fans, private pilots, and wine. And so clearly it can be done. The dilemma is, where do those, so if it's an occupation, I can get a sense of like where they hang out, like we talked about with Karen earlier. What do they read? I may even be able to get a sense of like what podcasts do they listen to. So I know sort of, I can already be thinking about distribution channels for the information I'm going to create, for the content I'm going to create. And the other thing I know about an occupational problem, if you will, is that generally, right, like one Nebraska football fan doesn't have the same financial challenges as another one. You could maybe make the argument around the private pilot thing, like, oh, how to finance the plane, but that's just one small piece of their financial life. When you compare that to an emergency room physician that is part of a private practice and has his own LLC with only one employee, and that's his spouse, his or her spouse, right? Like now, because I built a niche around that, and now you're talking, right? Those are and the reason that matters is we want to learn the language they use. Like, so the first step to a niche is make a list of occupations that you might be interested. I like some people have done it. Like, I always wanted to be, right? Like, I thought I was going to be an emergency room doctor. That's really interesting to me. I like those people, right? Like, maybe you want to work with high end, like the most elite retired special forces people, right? Because that was a dream of yours when you were a kid. Or maybe you want to help university professors. Like, so you can look at your client base and say, you know what? I really enjoy working. I've got 3 dentists I really enjoy working with. I've enjoyed working with my dentist clients. That's interesting. So you just take those as points of data and you say, that's interesting. I think of it as tailwind. So you just sort of like, you're just making little bets at this point.